L.A. Noire is an open-world action-adventure detective game developed by now-closed studio Team Bondi and published by Rockstar Games on May 17th of 2011. This game took place in 1947 Los Angeles and put us into the shoes of Cole Phelps. A man home from the military has to start a new life and decides to work his way up through the LAPD. Cole Phelps starts his journey on the traffic desk, but we're going to start with development. My name is Chriest, and this is the history of L.A. Noire. Production on L.A. Noire began after the studio Team Bondi was funded and created in 2004. The idea for the game was Brendan McNamara's, owner of Team Bondi and the original creator of motion capture, which his company Depth Analysis dubbed Motion Scan. Today, we think of L.A. Noire as a classic Rockstar game, but it was originally funded and planned to be published by Sony Computer Entertainment as a PlayStation 3 exclusive. After 2 years of working with Sony, Team Bondi parted ways with the publisher and announced the rights to publish the game had been transferred to Rockstar Games. After this, not only did Rockstar Games throw a ton of cash at the project, but they also added development help from a few different Rockstar studios. Brendan McNamara said, and I am paraphrasing, he resented the amount of creative control that had shifted from Team Bondi to Rockstar, and Rockstar ended up having the final decision on most of the game. Even though Rockstar was now in charge of L.A. Noire, the game was never shifted to the Rockstar Advanced Game Engine, or as we know it today, Rage Engine. Instead, going with Team Bondi's proprietary engine because it allowed the crossover from motion capture to animation, the first of its time. After all, McNamara is the creator of Motion Scan as we know it today, and the Rage Engine did not have support for this brand new technology. Today, the standard for AAA titles is to have many actors motion scanned into their game. Back in 2011, though, this was brand new and incredibly expensive, costing Rockstar about $50 million, including advertising, to make this game. Brendan McNamara and his company Depth Analysis used 32 cameras to accurately map out highly realistic facial models and animations. This was the most important part of L.A. Noire's engine. It allowed players to detect when a person was lying based off facial movements and obvious indicators. This made the interviews an interesting experience that had never been done in a video game. But the amount of money they spent on it made the rest of the game leaving a bit to be desired. Besides interviewing subjects and finding clues, the gameplay of L.A. Noire was fairly simple. Do you want to run, to climb, to shoot, to drive? It had all the open-world action-adventure categories checked, but failed to do anything creative in the open-world department. Side quests were often repetitive, chase guy, arrest guy, but more often than not, chase guy, shoot guy. To distract from the lack of mission variety, L.A. Noire had Cole in the line of fire more often than not. Gunplay was fun, and L.A. Noire to this day is one of the best cover shooters of all time. L.A. Noire was still a flawed game and had many engine-limiting technical problems. Focusing heavily on the noir cinematic look, Team Bondi and Rockstar decided to lock the game's frame rate to 24 frames per second, a relative slug. This may have been the standard frame rate for films and movies, and it made the cutscenes look very cinematic, but what actually happened is made the gameplay look very slow and very laggy. Besides FPS problems, it had low-resolution textures, and they would constantly pop in and out, not to mention a horrible, god-awful draw distance, which for the console plebs out there means how far you can see objects. Technical problems aside, L.A. Noire is a beautiful game and did a tremendous job of recreating a realistic version of 1940s Los Angeles. Although being mostly an accurate representation of what L.A. looked like in the 1940s, Team Bondi took some artistic license, like adding in the set from D.W. Griffith's classic film Intolerance, that was originally dismantled in 1919, instead being destroyed in one of the later missions. Since Team Bondi was going for a realistic detective game, they did a lot of research into old newspapers and pulled many case files from real-life events. A big example of this being the red lipstick murder case, which was pretty much closely based off the unsolved murder of Jane French. Not only were some of the cases based on true events, but some of the in-game characters were historical figures, most notably being Mickey Cohen, the notorious LA mobster, played by Patrick Fischler in the game. That wasn't the only famous actor that lended their face and voice to L.A. Noire. The game had the same casting directors as the show Mad Men, their names being Carrie Aduino and Laura Schiff. They pulled a lot of the talent straight from the show. Actors that were in both L.A. Noire and Mad Men include Aaron Stanton, Vincent Kartheiser, Rich Sumner, Rich Hutchman, Hal Landon Jr., Andy Umbringer, and about 70 more other actors that crossed over from L.A. Noire to Mad Men. The quality and quantity of actors made the characters relatable and made being immersed in the story that much better. In total, they hired about 500 voice and face actors in comparison to a game like The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which was a much larger game that only had 70 voice actors in total. There's about the same amount of voice actors that were in Mad Men and L.A. Noire as in total with Skyrim. That's kind of crazy. Are we starting to see why this game took so long to make? A plethora of tremendous voice actors translated into intense storytelling and characters we still remember talking to about 7 years later. This video couldn't be complete if I didn't mention what a terrific job Aaron Stanton did as the main character, Cole Phelps. Cole took us on the adventure of moving up through the ranks of the LAPD while still balancing a continuous story arc. Cole Phelps changes so much throughout the story of L.A. Noire, and it simply wouldn't have been possible without the amazing actor in Aaron Stanton. With such quality storytelling and an abundance of actors that look just like their video game counterparts, it's almost crazy that we haven't seen an L.A. Noire TV show or film. Story and development aside, let's talk about the release. In October of 2003, Team Bondi said that they were working on a new video game. The title was then unveiled in 2005. The game was originally scheduled to be released in 2008, but that didn't even come close. Then it was finally delayed and finally released in May 17th of 2011. L.A. Noire released to critical success after about 7 to 8 years of development hell that would eventually lead to Team Bondi's closure. If you want someone to blame for Team Bondi getting shut down, blame Team Bondi. Horrible work conditions and a really long development cycle led to a ton of problems in the company. If you need someone else to blame, it's not Rockstar, it's IGN. Yes, that IGN. After the release of the game, IGN put out this article titled, "Why Did L.A. Noire Take 7 Years to Make?" This story documented unpaid working environment. Combined with leaked Bondi emails and an anonymous employee testimonial, this IGN story was too big for the International Game Developers Association to ignore. A full investigation was launched into the working conditions at Team Bondi by the IGDA for short. This investigation turned up many not-so-great things about the studio, including that there was about $1 million in unpaid salaries at the company, and the rumors of long hours and crazy overtimes was true and verified by Team Bondi CEO Brendan McNamara. This led to the studio's closure and the eventual sale of the company's assets. Eventually planned to be turned into Rockstar Sydney, Australia, Team Bondi had been shut down, never to work with Rockstar ever again. Rumors were floating around about Team Bondi's resentment of Rockstar's creative control over L.A. Noire, and Bondi could not get a deal done with any game publisher after this fallout. After failing to sign a publisher deal and closing down, another Australian multimedia company called Kennedy Miller Mitchell bought the assets to Team Bondi and future intellectual properties. Even though Team Bondi had been bought, the rights of L.A. Noire's franchise stayed with Rockstar Games. The company that bought them was owned by Mad Max director George Miller, and most of Team Bondi went on to work on projects like the Mad Max video game and the animated film Happy Feet 2. But that isn't the end for Team Bondi. When they were reopened by KMM, they were working on a new detective game. This game was supposed to be the spiritual sequel to L.A. Noire, and it was called Horror of the Orient. Yes, that is the title of the game, Horror of the Orient. Supposedly a cop game set in the mean streets of China. Whether or not it was the studio's fault or just the horrible name, pun intended, Horror of the Orient was rumored to be canceled. Some gameplay ended up popping up on YouTube after the studio's second closure. The game looked promising as a detective game, but the gameplay looked like just another third-person cover shooter. With Horror of the Orient being canceled, Team Bondi once again had nothing to work on, and the rest of the studio was dissolved into Kennedy Miller Mitchell. With all of that in mind, will we ever see L.A. Noire 2? The quick answer is yeah. Rockstar wouldn't have fought to keep the rights of the franchise if they didn't plan to expand on it. Rockstar has said in the past that L.A. Noire is a permanent franchise, and they don't always rush to make sequels. With the November release of the L.A. Noire remaster, it shows us that Rockstar is still invested in the franchise, and it gives me hope that we will see a sequel sooner than later. I think it's safe to say that Rockstar is secretly working on L.A. Noire 2 right now. I think Rockstar loves this franchise as much as we do, and I'm telling you right now, you can hold me to this. The next Rockstar game after RDR 2 is L.A. Noire 2. Who will develop it? What's Rockstar Toronto doing these days? Well, they've been quiet for a few years now. Weird. Why would Rockstar remaster L.A. Noire if they didn't plan on returning to the franchise sometime soon? I hope this video answers some of your questions about L.A. Noire's development and the circumstances around why we have not yet seen a sequel. Thank you all for watching. My name is Troy Harrison Chriest. Hit that subscribe button, and I'm out of here.